All right, welcome to Significance Summit. Who are you and what do you do?
Thank you. My name is Karri Saarinen, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Linear. And Linear is a purpose-built tool for planning and building products. So what we do is we streamline the workflows that product organizations have, like planning roadmaps, planning projects, tracking bugs and tracking issues. And we try to make it really intuitive and streamlined for those organizations.
So maybe before we get into our questions here, how did you stumble upon the opportunity for Linear?
I think I feel like often founders think about their passion or their frustrations. So I think this was definitely on the frustration side. So I and all of my two other co-founders, we've worked in a lot of different companies, like different stages, early stage, medium stage, late stage companies. And pretty much every company we noticed the tools for managing technical projects were never anyone's favorite, and they weren't very good. Like people hardly even used them. And it's kind of strange that we are in the software industry and building software every day. And one of the main tools that every engineer uses, like an issue tracker or project management system, are one of the most least liked systems out there. And that was my experience as well. My background is in design, but it's a similar experience where I just avoided using those tools. And I thought that's really it's like a mistake or a problem in the industry that we should do something about. That ideally these tools are something that make the teams work better and make the companies work better. But what I saw in these companies, it wasn't the case. So what ends up happening is that you have these tools in the background, but people are not really using them or not really understanding how to use them. And then there is the status meetings that happens. The people are always the managers asking what's going on, who is working on this, or is this done or whatever. So I think there is this a lot of waste that I saw in this, or inefficiency in these organizations that wanted to make something that people actually use and want to use.
It's interesting. It's obviously a big category and a critical part of many companies, but I feel like before you guys, a real design sensibility had never been applied to this category before.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, it's definitely I don't think a lot of designers, a lot of people wake up one day and say I'm really passionate about bug tracking or something like that. So it's not on an onset that exciting category to be in. But to me, it's I look at it more it's a very important problem for companies to solve for companies, and it's almost like a system that I can help to design for the company. So I see the value that way, and I think that's probably the reason why designers haven't really where there hasn't been this more design-focused companies in this space, because it is not doesn't naturally come to those kind of people. So you kind of have to find some other motivation to do it than just I'm really passionate about bug tracking.
For issue tracking, for project management writ large, there are a lot of stakeholders in an organization, and so there's a lot of different sort of primary customers you could sort of aim toward. How did you pick such a developer-focused approach to building Linear?
I think a lot of it came from our own experiences, that in the end, the developers or the technical people in the product organizations, they are the end user of this product, because they actually do the work that needs to be done. They are the ones that gets assigned on the task, then they pick it up and then they work on it, and eventually they are the source of truth or information if it got done or not. And these systems are there to kind of help to communicate that across the company. And so I think that's where to me, that's where the reality is. It's kind of the front lines and where the information actually is. And I know in the past there's been companies that approach this the other way around, where it's let's think about what the high level people or the leaders need, and let's start building it that way. But I think it never connects with the reality unless the developers or engineers are using it. And I think that's also the biggest group of users for the product. If we have 100 or 1,000 seats we license to a company, it's maybe 90% or 50% of them are engineers. So so that, again, it's like makes sense. I think like historically, this doesn't always happen, or like this doesn't always happen in business tools or enterprise tools, because how the enterprise tools are sold, because the end users are not buying the product, they're not signing up on the website and like, I'm just buying this for myself. The organization is buying it, so a lot of the companies optimize a lot on that experience. It's like, how do we make this product really like appealing to the organization, but then forget to make it actually appealing or working
at all,
for,
right.
for the actual users.
Yeah.
So I think like it's not maybe like the most straightforward approach if you think about building like a business or like a more of a enterprise company, but we just think like that's the most real approach we can take, that those people are on the ground are the ones that like have the information.
Your observation that the developers are the one who ultimately make the product is profound. I mean, I had this thing occur to me when I was a PM working at Microsoft, and I was working really hard on my specs and writing what it should and shouldn't do in certain cases and corner cases, and working with the designer. And then at some point it hit me, mock-ups don't ship, specs don't ship, like nothing ships except the code the developers write. And I suppose if you're actually an artist making graphics, those things get, those ship with code, assets ship. But assets and code ships, and everything else is sort of a means to an end. So if there's any lossiness of understanding what is the code actually supposed to do, you're immediately screwed. The only thing that matters is the code that executes.
Yeah, sometimes I think about this. There's some tools out there that I just think they're more like a fantasy football tools, where you're kind of like
I love it.
You are organizing, you're like operating your company like it's like a fantasy football team. Like you are moving things around, and like you are moving this roadmap around, but no one actually like does anything about it. Like,
GM.
That roadmap does not get experienced by customers.
And like or even the engineers on the ground, they don't know what you're doing in this tool because they're not there. It's like it's
That's
not.
so great.
You don't have the real players there. So that's kind of like what we try to flip, is that we try to work with the real players, and then but then still make the product work for the organization or the company, and where there's also value there, and we should do that.
That's amazing. Well, as we've been asking everybody here today, you get to work with companies, so many companies these days that make amazing products, have great product organizations, great development organizations. Who are one or two companies that, like for you personally, stand out as just like really, really, really great product organizations?
I mean, I think there's many, and I think often you see it from the products that if the experience is good, then I think there's something going on in the company. But I think to me, I worked at Airbnb before, and I worked sometimes I had projects that Brian Chesky was overseeing, and I think he's really special in a way that his drive and passion for the brand and the experience is kind of rare still, I think, in companies. And I think he had really high standards on the products we do, that if it's not exciting, we shouldn't be launching it. And I learned a lot in the 4 years I was at Airbnb. I'm kind of seeing this firsthand, and I think that also did affect the whole product organization. It doesn't solve all the problems or make the product organization work really well in some ways, but I think there is that need for someone in the very the highest level you can think of, that someone who cares about are we actually doing something exciting and something really good that we're proud of. And that's, I think, is common with all of these companies, is that the founders or the CEOs or people on the top, they are the ones that care almost the most about the experience, not the designers or someone else. Obviously they care as well, but I don't think the quality or this great products happen if the leaders don't do that. They don't believe that matters. And I think it's still rare that in Silicon Valley to kind of focus on this, how does the product feel, or how does it make people to feel, since I think traditionally a lot of founders come from more technical backgrounds, and it's more here's the tech, let's figure out how we solve some problems with it and sell it, which is, it's very pragmatic. but it doesn't feel. It
That
doesn't
worked in the
create
bug
something.
tracking category for
Yeah.
a long time until you guys came along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel. It doesn't make people excited or make them feel something.
In a perhaps different from feeling, but as we've been talking with folks all day today, really feelings and opinions and data do need to be tied together. Data-wise, what's something over the course of your career, maybe at Airbnb, maybe at Linear now, where using data has completely changed your mind on something?
I mean, I think some of this experience is actually might be on the other side of the coin, where I think the data is overused in a lot of cases, and that's like some learning I had, like with Airbnb, for example, that it wasn't necessary to use the data in certain situations. So I think there was that learning for me personally, that I could see that yes, we are doing all this data work or experimenting, but that shouldn't trump the other ideas that we have, or the vision we have, or those feelings we are trying to achieve. But there are also moments when the data does make sense and like does change something, and I think those moments are when you really want to, like, you have something specific you want to validate, that like you want to know, like, is this product actually being used, or like something like that. It's more like straightforward, that it tells you something that is real, not just gives you, the data doesn't give you that direction, what you should be doing, but it can validate the points in that direction. So I think today we for example at Linear, we don't use a lot of data in our road mapping or some like other high-level planning. But when we do work on a project, there might be areas where we have questions about the data. So to me, it's more that the data is a type of tool or a type of work, it's part of your toolkit that you can use, but you also should know when to use it and not just use it all the time, which there's that level of tendency, because it can be like these days, it's easy to get data. So you can get data on all kinds of things, but then it's kind of cheap, and like it's not that hard anymore. So there's the tendency that let's just look at the data and make a decision based on that. And to me, I don't like that, or I don't believe in that. Like you shouldn't like mindlessly just follow what the data tells you, and that it should be more. You should be more controlled to like when and how you use it.
Totally. It's funny, even right before you, we had Vijay, CEO of StatSync, on here, and, a data, statistics company, and he said one of the biggest moments in his career at Facebook, at Meta, was when they realized that like actually doing something completely the opposite of what the data said, even though it was like statistically significant that the data said to do something, was completely wrong, and then they changed it and made way more revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, Karri, I know it's been an exciting last couple weeks for you. Tell us about Linear Mobile.
Yeah, so after 5 years on M-Company, we finally launched our native mobile apps. And I think just to say on that it's always like on our minds that we should have it, but the way we run the company was to try to think like, is this like the right time to do something? And it's like, is this like the primary focus we should have? And when you're like building the product at the same time, building it at multiple platforms can be really like challenging. So that's why it took us a while to get here. But yeah, I'm really excited about it, because it's when we think that it's not just that, okay, here's a mobile version of Linear. It's about, we think it more that this is like a companion app to the system, because these kind of products like project management or issue tracking systems in an organization, they can become quite complex, just like the sheer volume of things in there. And mobile is not the best interface to access all that complexity. So we took more of an approach where we think about what are the workflows that people actually really want to do when they're like somewhere else than on their computer, and focus on those. So we try to like optimize those workflows to make them really good. And then what I'm excited about is I think this can be a really great tool for leadership or managers that are more in the meetings or on the go. And for example, me, I'm here now in this conference, in this interview, and then I can check on my phone. It's like what is happening in the company, like what's the what are the project updates or what are the things happening. So it's just like a quick for me to check that, and I don't have to open my laptop and like do something. Or if I notice, if someone tells me an idea or I notice something, I can just type it in the mobile and it goes there.
Can I ask, what did make you think, okay, now is the right time?
I think that basically that we saw that the product is getting like mature enough, so that there's the right building blocks are there. We kind of know what the system looks like, what the structure is. We will keep adding to it and like changing things, but it's no longer that like early days you're not sure what kind of things or what direction like you're going. So it's tough to like do multiple things at once, like like discover what product you're building, but then also like trying to like build it in multiple times at the same time.
And if you're multi-platform earlier, when you're still wildly moving around, then it just creates drag or like tech debt almost as you make changes. It's like okay, now there's twice as much code that needs to change when we change directions. So it's like, well, we now feel very solid about what linear is at its core, so we can start sort of increasing the surface area.
Yeah, and I think the also multi-platform things, the other is the coordination. This was really hard. I saw this at Airbnb because it is more of a mobile like centric company, and the app is probably today the primary way people access Airbnb. But then when we created new features, we had to put them on all the platforms at the same time. And each platform is a little unique on the speed of execution. Like how do you, like certain things can be really hard, certain things are very easy. So like keeping everything at the same like timeline, it also creates an additional drag or just additional coordination effort or additional delay in the roadmap, because you cannot, even though the feature is ready on web, you cannot launch it because it's not ready on iOS or Android. So that's like another problem.
Makes total sense.
Congrats. Welcome to the mobile era.
Yeah.